Give it a few more minutes. We expect many more to join in.
Good evening, coders. My name is Ellie Shu, and I welcome you all to this Zoom meeting. I am a sophomore at Monte Vista High School and an intern for the Rishi Kumar for Congress campaign. I'd like to thank you all so much for joining this lesson. Now I will be introducing Rishi Kumar, the architect behind this program. Rishi is currently a Saratoga City Council member and is running for Congress in District 18, which includes cities such as Palo Alto, Los Altos, Los Gatos, Menlo Park, part of San Jose, and of course, Saratoga, just to name a few. Rishi became the first Democratic challenger in our congressional district to advance to the general election in the last 28 years. Fun fact, Rishi has actually won every election he has been a part of so far. Rishi is a high-tech software executive and advocates for data-driven solutions. After living in Saratoga for so many years and seeing countless problems in his community going unaddressed, Rishi stepped up and started searching for better solutions. As a council member, Rishi led efforts to reduce burglaries and to reject San Jose Water Company's water rate increases, some of Saratoga's biggest challenges. His activism led to his re-election with the most votes in Saratoga history. Rishi believes in citizen-centric values as an elected leader, and he has pledged to never accept special interest group or PAC money for his campaign. Rishi's website, rishikumar.com, provides more information on Rishi's values and stances on political issues. Rishi has been working to help the community during the shelter in place by making masks, delivering groceries to seniors, and hosting online town hall meetings to spread accurate information about the pandemic. The website rishikumar.com has details on how to join these Zoom meetings, and you can visit rishikumar.com/coronavirus for a comprehensive coronavirus newsletter that is updated daily. Youth empowerment is near and dear to Rishi's political leadership. He has launched Lego robotics and entrepreneurship boot camps to acquaint our youth with tech and to help them launch their very own startups. In early 2015, Rishi made history in Saratoga by launching an internship program that created tremendous opportunity for local students, me being one of them. This internship has given me the chance to become more involved in the community and to hone my own soft skills. We all know that a new vision for the future of Silicon Valley is desperately needed, and Rishi has both the energy and the get things done attitude to make real change. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Rishi, who will be talking about this coding program in more detail and will introduce the rest of the team that is behind this effort.
Okay. Ellie, that was nicely done. Can you all hear me? Shake your head, please. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right,
Yes.
let's go. We have 192 right now, and we have over 300 who RSVP'd. So this is a fabulous session, and we are very excited that there are so many who are interested to be part of this. And you are in for some pretty good learning with the curriculum that we have put together. And, the startup economy is the bread and butter of Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is the 19th largest economy of the world, 19th largest economy of the world. So we're doing something right here. And it's many kids like you who grow up here and they start launching startups and they start investing into startups. So we have a fabulous ecosystem. I call it the Silicon Valley secret sauce, why everything comes together. And we are making magic happen by rolling out technology that is adopted by the rest of the world, but it also powers the economy of the United States and provides the ability for a lot of people to make their living. So the startup that we have going here is something very magical that very few cities across the world have managed to replicate. So if you live here in Silicon Valley, you should feel a lot of gratitude for living here and watching all these startups come alive, and perhaps watching your parents and uncles and aunties who work in the startup economy. And this is really what makes Silicon Valley a fabulous place. So we are pretty excited to have you. And we are basically going to run through the curriculum today. I will also introduce you to our instructors, and we'll get this going. Now, I do want to mention Ellie, and Ellie is basically part of our internship program, and she's one of our top performers. And this is what we are doing right now with the internship program. We are helping out with the pandemic. Obviously we are running for Congress, but we are not talking about the campaign right now. There is a lot of need in the community, and we are identifying those needs and requirements and helping out. And in fact, a startup does something very similar. What a startup does is it identifies a problem and then it figures out a solution. And when you identify a problem and you're able to address it, then your customers come and flock to you and they purchase your product. In this case, what we're doing is we have a pandemic, there's a big problem, we have nothing to sell. All we are doing is we are offering our labor. We are building masks, we are picking up groceries for seniors and dropping it off at their homes. We are running like town hall meetings on small business because they are quite impacted because we are not shopping anymore and they are struggling to make their livelihoods. And so we are providing them perspectives with the stimulus package. We are running healthcare town hall meetings. We also have newsletters that we have published. And much of this work is done by our interns. And they are doing a fabulous job. Folks like Ellie who are stepping up, taking charge, and discovering new leadership opportunities. What we believe in is empowering our youth. And when you learn what you learned today, you will be completely empowered. At the end of 8 weeks, I guarantee you, you will have the ability to take an idea and turn it into a business plan. But not just that, you will actually be able to build a product as well. And this is the track record of what Silicon Valley Coders Club has done. They have been running this for many years now. And this is the Silicon Valley Coders team that ran the program. in, let's see, let me just mute everybody. And they ran it in 12 different cities of California. And over 2,000 kids were trained with this entrepreneurship program. It's a fabulous program, and we have the whole team back to run this. And I would like to introduce firstly Caitlin Chen, and they will all introduce themselves, but let me just run through. So we have Caitlin Chen, and she is a student at UC Berkeley, and she's studying computer science. And then we have Shivam Kumar, and he's a student at University of Washington, computer science. And then we have Rishabh Kumar, who's a graduate from UCLA computer science. And he's also doing a master's currently in AI machine learning, which is artificial intelligence machine learning at Georgia Tech University. And then we have an industry expert, a serial entrepreneur, and a track record of formulating startups and having them taken over, or having them basically making a profit out of these startups and making a good living. And that's Amit Seth. And he understands the startup economy inside and out. And he is going to be the mentor for all of you to take you from a mindset of having a crazy idea and turning that into a business plan, and hopefully from a business plan into an actual product. So in 8 weeks, we may not be able to help you create a product, but we'll provide you some perspectives in terms of how you could take that business plan and then start in building a product as soon as you're done with this class. And then at the very end, we also have a pitch fest. So all of you form your teams, invite your friends and classmates to join you, and you will get a chance to build a PowerPoint presentation, which is your business plan. And you will all do an online presentation to a team of judges. And we'll run this at the end of the class. So that in a nutshell is what we are doing. So let's go around, and love to have our team here provide their perspective. So let's start with Caitlin.
Hi everyone, I'm Caitlin. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I will be teaching the Java section on Mondays with Shivam, and we'll be going over some data structures, some basics as well. And these are super useful for creating large-scale projects, as well as for interviews in internships and jobs you apply for in the future.
Hi everyone, my name is Shivam. As my dad said earlier, I'm a computer science major at the University of Washington. So I'll be teaching the Java section and the Python section along with Caitlin. And for the Python, we're going to start out with just some simple basics, teaching the basics of Python and all that syntax, and then we'll go into more real world projects as we get on with the course.
Waiting for Rishabh.
Yeah, I think we are having some network issues.
Yeah, I hear him talking about, I can't, doesn't seem like it's working on Zoom.
He's on mute probably. Can you go tell him? Okay, here we go.
Hi, sorry, my computer disconnected. So yeah, I'm Rishabh. I'm going to be teaching JavaScript. We're going to start out with some basic web design, HTML, CSS, and then we'll move on to some more complex JavaScript. And then we'll introduce the React web framework that will allow us to build some complex JavaScript applications.
Okay, and last but not the least, Amit Seth, the advisor to the program. I respect this man a lot for his accomplishments. He also plays a sport at the US national level, and a man of many talents. So Amit, please take it from here.
Thank you, Rishi. Can you all hear me? Can you hear me, Rishi?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you, Rishi. And thank you, Ellie, for that great introduction to Rishi. I think we have to pause and say thank you to Rishi for his tireless work. I got associated with Rishi many years back, basically wanting to impact kids' life. That was a motto for me. And Rishi, I came across because he was running all these programs for kids, whether it was Hindi or programming or Bollywood dance or yoga. And we hit it off immediately at that point, maybe I think 6 years back. And it was Rishi's brainchild. He asked if I could help him put this program together, what we are now calling the Entrepreneurship Bootcamp. So I basically at that point put the program together for him, with him, and we ran it that first year at Saratoga alone with 100 students, and it was a massive success. And people from all over the US approached Rishi for the program, and it ended up, as Rishi said, we ended up teaching over 2,000 people in 12 centers across the US, including the East Coast. But again, Rishi is tireless in his impact that he has not only given to Saratoga, but the whole area. And I kept telling Rishi when I helped him with the re-election of his council team, Rishi, why don't you stand for something bigger? And I was so happy to hear when he was standing for Congress, and I sure hope he can win. I'll do my best to help him. And I hope all of you also see the kind of leader he is. And again, that one word, I am being repetitive, but tireless is the word I would describe his service to us. So thank you, Rishi. The program really is very exciting. It's exciting from the perspective of it's not just about being geeky and learning techie stuff. It is much more than that. It starts off by really getting into your being and asking you what really is your passion. And startups really come about when people have a passion and they find an area of a problem in their area of passion and then bring out a solution that will help impact lives, help impact in their area of passion, a product that becomes successful. And we are going to basically start by asking your inner being what your passion is and develop that further into the culmination, which would be a business plan, as Rishi mentioned. I will guide you through that process. A business plan is really a puzzle. It's a puzzle that comes together with multiple pieces of this puzzle. And what I will ask each of you that are going to attend this entrepreneurship program is please attend every one of these, because every one of these sessions are a piece of the puzzle that if you don't have all of those pieces, the puzzle will not come together for you. It just will not. And whether it is your marketing part of your startup or the financials part or the IP and the technology part of it, all of it is important to bring a plan together. So my job will be to help you bring that together. And then as Rishi mentioned, we will have a pitch fest at the end. Rishi's network and my network, we have multiple venture capitalists, VCs who invest in startups, as well as serial entrepreneurs that we will invite actually to judge your plans. And if history has word, there have been a couple of startups in the past where my VC friends have actually spoken to these startups. These are middle schoolers to see if they can fund that startup. So it was a resounding success, as in the startups here from the middle schoolers or high schoolers with their business plan actually went on to get some funding in terms of bringing their startup to life. So I'm excited by this. Again, please attend all or none. None is okay, but all, if you are in, be fully in. That's my only request. I'm actually looking forward to this.
All right, Amit, thank you so much for joining us today. And we're looking forward to you running the session. And your session, I believe, is on Thursday. So again, to summarize, Monday is Java, Tuesday is Python, Wednesday is JavaScripting, building web pages, and then Thursday is where it all comes together with the entrepreneurship. So we highly recommend you join every single session because you get a chance to interact with the instructor, ask questions, and you will also get to participate with your class. And we'll be taking this video, it'll be posted on YouTube, and you'll find the YouTube link on the coronavirus newsletter we have, where we have all the video links, which is at rishikumar.com/coronavirus. rishikumar.com/coronavirus. So if your friends miss the class for some reason, you can tell them to go find the video and they can watch the video. So with that, let's get going with this class. Again, Ellie, nicely done with the introduction. Very kind, and you did a great job, and very proud of Ellie. And let's get going. The first class will probably run over a little bit because we are starting a little bit late. But all the remaining classes will start exactly at 5. So please don't be there late. And we'll jump right in because it'll be 1 hour of a session. No more talks like this. It'll be just pure coding and learning. That's it. No more of this stuff of talking. We did the initial introduction only for today, and the rest of the classes you will all be running. So Caitlin, on to you. Thank you so much, Caitlin, for running this.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for that introduction. So Shivam is actually going to be helping me and sharing his screen while we code some of the basic Java program. And so if you can share your screen, we're going to teach you a few ways that you can actually run Java code. So there's 3 different ways that we're going to go over. If you guys have like a text editor such as Sublime Text or Atom, you guys can use that and run your files from terminal, or you can also choose to use a program such as IntelliJ, which is, so this is a test class from our test program in a Sublime Text.
So are you guys able to see my screen right now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Thanks. Yeah. And if you want to choose this way, it's actually like pretty useful to learn Bash, and actually you can just run this file by typing in java test.java, so just Java and the file name, and it should run the file for you. Yeah. And then a second way that you can also do it is go onto the online IDE such as Replit, and this is like the way that we suggest that you run the first class because we're not doing anything too super complicated, and so this will help you automatically create a file, and you can just run it directly on the online IDE. And this.
I'm muted.
What's the name?
And then you can just run that file and it just runs directly on the IDE itself. So that's a little bit more laggy, so that's why we're not going to be using the file when we share our screens on Replit, but you guys can feel free to use it for this first class. And then the third way is to get like integrated local IDE such as IntelliJ, which we'll be using in future classes, and we'll send it out on how to download this IDE onto your laptops or computers, so you guys can actually have like the whole debugger and everything else that we need to run more complex programs. Yeah, so for now, basically to sum up, you guys can use Replit for today's class, and then in the future, we'll be using IntelliJ. I think Shivam will be running the code for today on his Sublime Text, so it's like faster.
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of different ways that you can run code. I'm reading the chat right now. You guys are seeing like Jupyter Notebook, Eclipse, and all that. So if you're already comfortable with like with a certain way of running Java, then feel free to use whatever way you're comfortable with. But we're just providing some ways in case you don't know what to do. If you guys can see my screen right now, I'm using Sublime Text. That's how we'll run it for today. So I'll just start out with a blank. I just named the file test.java just to get us started in like a test program. With Java, the main thing that you want to do is first define a class that you will basically put all of your code under. So I'll just name this one class 1 because that's what we're going to do. Later in throughout the course, we'll go into more depth about what classes are, what this exactly means, public class 1. Just for now, this is how we're going to create class. And then for people who have experience in other languages, you probably know that there's something called like a main function. So in Java, this is exactly what the main function would be. And this is where we can define all of our variables, all of our methods, everything that we want to use or where we can run all of our different variables. So all of this, public, static, void, main, string, bracket, args, it's pretty complicated. We'll get into that later in the course. But for now, all you need to know is that this is where you run everything. So let's also try not to spam the chat so that people who actually have questions are able to ask questions there. Yeah, so I'll go on to with the lesson now. So I'm sure a lot of you who have Java experience know what all of this means. So I'll just type out the statement first. So what we have here is a print statement, which will basically just print out onto my screen whatever I put in these quotations. So the way I represent words in Java is always through these quotations. So that this is Java's way of identifying that this is a word rather than another number or something like that. So if I were to run this line in my command line, it just prints something as simple like that, hello world. And there's a lot of things that you can do. So I can print out again, hello, my name is Shivam. If I were to run that. Oh, so another thing that you guys always want to do is make sure that you have your semicolons at the end. I always forget those. Because in Java, whenever you write a line of code, you always want it to end with a semicolon so that the compiler is able to understand what you're writing. So, and then Java actually printed it out for me what my error was here. So if I were to run it again, oh, I didn't save it. Then here we have the two different print statements that I printed out on the screen here. So there's what you see here is something called println. What this basically does is after I print out my entire statement, the next print statement that happens in my code, it will go to a new line. So for example, if I were to just do system.out.print, I like to eat cookies. Then if I do another statement under that, for this example, I'll do this one. Yeah, semicolons. If I do another println, I like food, then what this will do is actually print both of these statements on the same line, and then if I were to just print this again under, it will go to a new line because there's the println here. So you guys can see how that works. So you see how I like to eat cookies and I like food are on the same line. It's because we use the print statement rather than the println statement. I'm just reading the chat real quick. So is it always supposed to be capitalized or lowercase? What specifically are you talking about for that? All right, yeah. So I'll continue on.
So actually to address that slightly, it's all right for any string to have a mix of capital letters and lowercase letters. There are like some functions that can make every character in a string into a capitalized or lowercase, but we'll go over that later as well.
And yeah, you're saying system, so that will always be capitalized. System is sort of like a built-in function into Java that we need to use, and it's defined as capitalized, so we need the S to be capital. And some of you are saying that you don't have Java downloaded, so I'll just give you a quick link right here to download Java 8, which is what we'll be using. Oh, I think I privately chatted this. There we go. Okay. So the args, what that specifically means, we'll go more into depth about that later. But for now, you just need to know that you'll need to type this in order to get your main function working. Okay, so I'll move on now. So what we'll talk about now is just variables in general and how you can use variables in Java in order to store information into a certain object so that you can use it later. So the value of a variable is stored during the execution of a program. And the way that you can define a variable, so if I have if I wanted to define a number, I'll create an int. I'll define it using int to say that's an integer, and that I'll just say is equal to 1. And one thing that you want to know about integers is that integers you can't have any decimals with it. You can't have and there's only a certain range for it, which is, it's a pretty big range, like 2 trillion or something, but that's something you don't really need to worry about right now. So if I were to create another variable, b is equal to 2, then I can do system.out.print. I'll say here is a, and then I'll add a there. And then once I run that, so what I did right here was I basically commented out this code. So whenever you put a double slash in front of any line of code, what's going to happen is that I can't really make my screen any bigger since is that what you're asking? But I put a double slash in front, that'll make it a comment. So whenever this is in front of a line,
sorry, I'm late.
Is this better to see?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So whenever you put a double slash in front of a line, that's basically a comment, and that won't get executed while running your code. So now if I were to run this, I have an integer a which is equal to 1, an integer b which is equal to 2, and I'm just printing out a. So this should just print out here is a, and that's 1 because we defined it as 1 here. So another thing that all of you probably should know is just simple addition and subtraction that you use, like 3 minus 2. You can do all that same stuff in Java. So if I create another variable called sum, and I want to create that to set that to what the value of a plus b. So what would the value of a plus b? 3, right? So if I were to just system.out. Also, if you guys can, some of you are privately chatting me, just put those in the chat so Caitlin can answer them as well, because I'll be teaching. Oh, so a lot of you guys are saying to slow down. So I'll just put that out there real quick so you guys can see what that'll output. So the sum is 3, so that's all correct. So I'll slow down right here really quickly so that everyone can catch up. Public and class will go into more about that later. Are there any questions right now that I can answer? So CD is something that you use in command line.
Yes. I have a question.
Yeah, what's your question?
When I'm trying to run it on that Replit, it's saying that there are 2 errors. Can I share my screen and show you if you don't mind?
So sharing your screen will be too big.
Let me just try. I don't think there's a need to. Oh yeah, I think it fixed now. It was just spacing.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
So ln, if you just joined, you probably didn't catch all that, but ln basically creates a new line after you print it. And when you remove the ln, it will just print it, as you can see over here. I like to eat cookies, I like to eat food. You see when I did a print, it printed I like to eat cookies, but it didn't create a new line, and it printed I like food right after that, if that makes sense. Yeah, you do need to put a semicolon after every line, because that's Java's way of understanding.
I have a question.
Yeah.
It keeps showing the syntax error as like an unexpected token of class.
Where are you running this code right now? Which on a REPL? Let's see. Could you copy?
Yeah, Replit actually creates the class for you. So it should have like already a signature that says like class main and public static void main string bracket args. So you actually don't need to like additionally make a new class for it. So
Oh
the
yeah,
nice thing
yeah.
about Replit, yeah.
I should have specified that earlier. Yeah. So in Replit, yeah, you don't need to type out everything that I'm doing because Replit automatically does that for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can start going over some of the other primitive types. I saw someone else in the chat mention different primitive types. So these are the different types of variables you can have in Java, and they're range from doubles, which are decimal in like values, decimal numbers. So yeah, if you can, Shivam, can you give an example of a double?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's just a lot of questions right now, so we're just trying to clear all those.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So for right now, download, all you need to download right now is make sure Java is downloaded. And also if you guys are unable to follow along, get all of this compiling right now and working, all you need to do is just you can also just write down on a Word document when I'm writing and then work through it later.
I have one slight complication. I'm running on Windows and I just downloaded Java, but it doesn't give me the runtime window. Like the thing you have open in Catalina, except I don't have that open.
So are you talking about this window with all the text?
Yep.
So that's just a text editor I'm using right now.
Oh.
I'm using Sublime Text, but it's not showing up in different colors like yours is. Is that supposed to happen?
So once you name your file .java, all those colors should show up.
And how do you do that? Do you just move one down?
So what you can do is just file, save, and then save as or whatever.
Okay, got it.
And
Thank
then
you.
name it to whatever you want to name it.
Yeah.
So in Windows, do you use the text editor?
So on there's a lot, like we mentioned at the beginning of the class, that you can use many different things. So you can use the text editor, you can use the online IDE. But if you guys are having trouble compiling and making it work right now, that's not too big an issue. We just want you guys to be able to understand what we're writing. You don't really need to do it yourself yet. That will be what you guys can work through the week with our homework assignment that we'll have at the end of the class.
Mm-hmm.
So for now, if you guys can't get everything working, just try to copy down what I'm writing so that you can look at this later for reference. And then we'll continue. So the text editor that I'm using right now is called Sublime Text. You guys can download that online. It's a pretty nice text editor. So as Caitlin was mentioning earlier, there's another type of number that you can include called a double, which is basically an integer but with decimals. Because as I mentioned earlier, an integer, you can't have any decimal or fractions or anything. So with the double, that will allow us to do that. So if I have a double C, like I'll name the variable C. Then double, I'll assign that to 3.0, for example, or 3.5. And then I can do the same thing, basically printing it out. Here's C. And then it'll print out the double. So this is just another way to define numbers. And so how do you rename it? So renaming a variable, once you first create a variable like double C, you can't really rename the tag that you put on it, which would be C. All you can do is basically change the value of it. So something that I can do down here is I can say C is equal to 5.6, right? And then I can print that out, and then once I did it, I assigned it to 3.5 initially, and then it printed out 5.6 after I changed it. So whenever you create a variable, the first time that you create your variable, the first time that you want to use it, you just assign it a double, which is basically defining the type of it. And then later, once you're changing the value of that, you don't need to assign the double or anything. Yeah.
Wait, is there any way that you can automatically print?
What do you mean by automatically print?
Like, do you actually have to type out system.out all the time? But
yeah, with Java you have to. Yeah.
Got it.
So double means, as I just said, is basically decimal. So with an integer, you can't have any decimals or like that, but with a double, you can. So Abhinav, I see you're putting a lot of information on the chat here. So let's just try to slow that down so there's not too much information that they're getting that they don't need that. Yeah. So it seems like you have a little bit more Java experience. If are there any specific questions? If you guys are confused, what are you guys exactly confused about right now? If you guys
First
can
of
say
all,
in the
how do you
chat.
run it in Sublime Text?
How do you run it in Sublime Text? So the way that you can do it is so if you, let's say you save, do you know where you save that file?
Yeah, to my Finder.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to address the rest of the class.
Oh yeah, no
For
problem.
now, just try to copy down what I'm writing so that you can understand.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. So I'll slow down and I'll re-explain everything once again. So here we have just a simple print statement. So what we need to do here is basically define system.out.println. So this is the command that you'll use to print out anything in Java. System.out.print will basically print out whatever you put in those parentheses to your command line or to your IDE or REPL, whatever you're using. And these quotations, as I mentioned, will allow you to identify the difference between a variable like this or a string like this. A string is just word, basically. So you can just put those in codes and then be able to print it like that. So far, I got everyone. Any questions? Yes, question? So try not to just put like all this importing and out.println, just to not confuse everyone. So let's just try to avoid using the chat box unless you have a question. So animations in Java, yeah, you can do animation. So that's something we can go into in the future if a lot of the class wants to do that.
One thing. Does High Sierra work with this?
Yeah, it should.
Okay, good.
So a lot of these questions that I'm getting about whether it's working or not, this is I'll send out a tutorial on exactly how to get everything set up later this week. But for now, what we just want to do is just to understand the content rather than getting it set up on your own laptop. So why does C have different values? So the way that I did with C is double C equals 3.5, essentially created the variable C and assigned it to the value 3.5. So if I have like an object C, I just assign that to the number 3.5. And then when I changed, when I have that second line, C equals 5.6, what that did was basically change that pointer to C and it changed the value from 3.5 to 5.6, if that makes sense.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So what exactly can this code be used for? Like any examples?
The current code that I have on the screen or just in general?
The current one.
So this is I'm just using it to teach you guys.
Okay.
Basically, this is not really doing anything other than just showing you different things that you can do with Java.
Okay. What about in general?
So like the print statements that he was talking about can be really useful for like debugging in the future. Like if you want to do a project and something's not working, you can use print statements to help you on that. And then also like the variables below, these are always used when we were trying to like save values for different objects as well. Yeah, so they'll definitely be used in the future. So these things are important, but they're like basic, but they're important. Yeah.
Any other quick questions?
Yes. What is the difference between println and print?
Sorry, Roy, I'll get to your question after I answer this real quick. So println, so I'll make it a little bit clearer. So if I have these four print statements, I'll just change this up. I'll just say hi there. These are four different print statements. So what this first print statement will do was it will just print hello, my name is Shivam, and then this print ln, what it does is the next statement or anything will go to the next line. So whenever there's an ln after, whatever I do after will be at the next line. So if I print hello, my name is Shivam, I like to eat cookies should be on the next line. But then for I like to eat cookies, there's no ln for that, right? So what's going to happen is that the I like food, that's not going to be printed on the next line, and it's rather going to be printed on the same line as I like to eat cookies.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, and then since there's an ln for that, the hi there should be printed on a different line as I like food. So when you see that I run this, you see I like to cookies, I like food are on the same line, and then hi there is after. So does that make sense? The difference between print and print ln?
Yes.
I also have a question.
Yeah.
So can we use Jupyter Notebook for this?
Yeah, I mean, if you know how to use like any of those kind of notebooks and stuff like that, then feel free to use it. Feel free to use whatever that works for you. So we were just giving recommendations on what you could use.
I have a question too.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you do system.out.print without the ln, it says I like to eat cookies, and you said that I like food goes on the same line, but that's the next line, and you put in ln. Does that go for the?
Oh, so by next line, I meant when you output it. So if you see here, it's on the same line.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. But like when you write your code, it's going to be on a new line, obviously, because you're just writing the code. But the way by when I'm talking about ln new line, I'm talking about in your output on what's going to happen when you actually print out.
Okay.
What is he using?
So yeah, I'm just using Sublime Text. Any other questions?
Wait, what did you say you were using?
Sublime Text. I can send a link for that too. So this week we'll send out more information about all this, how to get yourself started. So we'll have a Slack where you can ask questions on anything. We'll also have a Google form so you guys can talk about about this class and what you thought of it. And then we'll also give all the links you need for software you need to download and like different applications you need to download.
Where will you post the recording for the lesson?
My dad should handle that, and that should be after the class is done.
Okay.
Do you guys have any like Google Classroom or anything?
No, we don't have any Google Classroom or anything set up for this class right now. Lesson summaries, that we can do something like that if a lot of the people would like that. Just to give a quick, another thing that we can do is just give you all the code that we wrote for that day so that you guys can go through it. It'll have comments and everything so you can understand. So yeah, that'll be something that's good. Yeah, so we're planning to have homework. We have a homework assignment planned right now. I'm not sure if we'll get through all the information, but we'll just get through as much as we can and then send out that homework with all the links and everything.
So if you're using Sublime Text, how do you run it?
So the way that you can run it, I'll give a tutorial on this later, but you want to be able to use your command line. And if you're not very, you don't really understand how to use the command line yet, then I'll get, just feel free to just write down the code right now. Don't actually run it. And then just so you have it, and you can learn how to run it later.
Okay.
Okay, so now, if you guys all understand these print statements, I'll go on more I'll review variables again. So what we have here, so every time you want to create a variable, that's when you can assign information basically into an object, which in this case is A. So this A value will always reference to the number 1. So A is always with 1. And then if I were to change it, so I saw you guys got confused about how double, it seems like you can only change double. But here I can also say A is equal to 2. And then I can print out A again. And then you see that the value of A is 1 when I first create it. So int A is equal to 1 means when I'm first creating the variable A. And that when I print it out, here is A, it should print out here is A, and then it'll be a 1. And then when I change the value, A is equal to 2, that changes the assignment from A to 1, so A will be equal to 2. So you can, so you're saying that I thought B was 2, but you can have like, I can have A is 2, I can have int C is 2, I can have int D is 2. You can have unlimited variables assigning to the same value. So after I do this, it should print out here is A1 and here is A2. So if you guys see how that change happened, once I changed A to 2, then I was able to change the value of A. So does that all make sense so far? Any questions on that? Cool. If all of that is clear, so then now with this statement, what we have is I created another variable called sum. So
I got in late.
So what this does is basically take the values of A and B and we'll add them together and assign that into the variable sum. So if you guys have A is equal to 1, then B is equal to 2, and then I change the value from A to 2, what do you think the new value of sum will be? I know earlier all of you guys were saying 3, so now what do you guys think the value of sum will be? If you guys can just type in the chat what you think. Yeah, so it will be 4. So if there are any questions on why it will be 4, are there any questions on that? Cool. Okay. So yeah. So then when I run, this is when I run it again. So whenever I run through the command line, I always sometimes forget to save, so then it doesn't output properly. But then here, it'll print out that this sum is 4. Why is the sum 4? So the reason it's 4 is because when we first create A, we assign it to 1, right? Then when we create B, that's assigned to 2, so that all makes sense. Then on this line, what I did was change the value of A from 1 to the value of 2. So then when I reference A again, this is essentially the same thing as saying 2 plus 2, because A is 2 and B is 2. Jesse, I'm not exactly understanding your question. You don't, so I'm not exactly sure what you're confused about. Basically what we just did was create A to 1 and then change the value and then printed that out as the addition of those two values. Changing the number, yeah, it's the same thing with the double. It's basically the same thing with, there's no var command in Java. Changing the number with the double is the same thing as changing the number with an int. So Sublime Text is the application you can use to code in Java, but REPL.it, the link that I sent earlier, is what you can use to code it on an online IDE, so it's just a bit easier. If you guys want that link again, here it is. You just create an account and you can set up, oh, oops, I said that. You can just use that. Yeah. So what does it mean when there's a compiler error? So there's many different types of errors in Java. We'll get into more in depth of that too, but it could be some you could have, for example, maybe just done int A and not assign that to anything. But that's something we'll get into with future lessons. So can you put D? Yeah, okay, so now I'll move on to doubles. So now you see double C, that's where you can create a decimal and assign any value that's like 3.5, 3.56. I can have many different, I can have like a lot of decimals after this. again, and then I can print that out and then change the value and then print that out again. So this is basically the same thing that I did up here with A, but with the double instead of an integer. So there's just different types, and you can do the same things with all these different types generally. We'll go into specifically on different things that you can do with all these types, integers, doubles, Booleans we'll learn later. So then if I were to run this, you can see how the value of C changed and still outputted all my decimals that I wanted to. For the number of decimals that a double, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but yeah. And then, so can you put D as, so if you're asking, so there's another double, we have D, and then I can assign that to the same value, if that's what you're asking. And then if I just say, here is D, and I output that.
It's not working. Morning.
Always remember your semicolons. Then D will be the same output. All right, so there's a decent amount of information there, so I'll slow down a bit just to make sure everyone is caught up in understanding. So you just feel free to ask any questions or type any questions in. Yeah, so C and D can be the same decimal, the same way that A and B can be the same number up here. It's the same concept, just different. The only difference is that it's a double rather than an integer. Yeah. Cool. So now that you guys, so I'll keep this a little bit more simple. So we have D and C are both assigned to the values of 3.5. So now, what we can do, oh, I see a question. It says that there are 2 errors in this. It's hard to see, it's hard to debug errors without actually seeing all of your guys' code. So if you guys are having errors, don't worry about compiling right now. Just try to follow along and try to understand everything that I'm saying. So yeah, now if we have, so we did addition up here with the sum. So now if I just wanted to create another double, let's call this product. And that will be the product of these 2 different numbers. And then so in elementary school, middle school, high school, and all that, you obviously learn multiplication, and it's pretty simple. And you probably either use like an X or a dot or a star, all those different things. But in the way that in Java that we signify multiplication is through a star. So you can either have the spaces with it. It doesn't really matter, the spacing for Java, but this will basically just multiply the values of C and D with each other. And then if I were to print that out, I'll just comment all this out for now so it doesn't bother us. Oh. So you see the values of C and D, and then I multiplied and printed out the value of that. So now I see you guys already are talking about division. So now since C and D are the same value, I'll just say, we'll do another print statement. So what this will do is basically, instead of assigning the value of C divided by D to a certain variable, I can just directly print it out on the screen without having to do that. That's just another, it's more convenient way of doing it. And then if I were to run it, I would get, since C is 5 I can remove this to make it a little bit more simple. So yeah, so now here we have 1.0 because 3.5 divided by 3.5 will give us the answer 1.0.
One question. For this, is it possible to do it in the GNU Nano Editor in Terminal?
Oh, you mean like having an editor within Terminal and then running it through that? Yeah, that should work too.
Okay.
So Jacob, I saw your question. Can you do A times B times C times D? Yeah, you can do the same thing. It's so the way that multiplication and all that additions of division works in Java will be the same way. It'll interpret it the same way that you would in as a real person. So like PEMDAS, you guys probably all know that, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division. So we'll do that all in that order. Any other questions right now? So square roots and exponents, I see a question about that. We'll learn more about that in the future. There's something you can call something you can use called like a math library. So that's something more complicated. We'll get into that. How come you don't need quotation marks? That's a pretty good question. So the reason that I don't need quotation marks is when I'm creating something like this, hello world, or just here is C. So that's just specific text that I want to use to put on the screen. So it'll print out exactly here is C. But the reason that I don't use quotation marks around C here is because if I, when I don't put the quotation marks, it will basically reference the value that I assign C to. So in this case, I assign C to the value 3.5, and then it will print out that value 3.5. But if I were to just put quotation marks around it like that, then when I output it to the terminal, it's going to print out a C like that, rather than the value of 3.5.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
So if you just were to put like C equals 3.5 in the quotation marks, then it wouldn't print. But if you were not to put in the quotes, then it would print, correct?
Yeah, so if you are to put C is equal to 3, you're talking about if I do it like this?
Yes, then it won't print, correct?
Yeah, so basically whenever you put anything in the quotation marks, it will print it exactly how you type it inside. So like if I can run this too, it's just going to print out C is equal to 3.5 like that,
yeah,
rather than just the value 3.5, which is what I want.
Okay.
No, and go.
I have a question.
Yeah, sorry, what's your question?
So you wrote double product equals C times D. So how come we didn't have to write anything for the print when you did the division?
Oh yeah, so that's what so I was explaining here was, so these are two different ways that you can do it. So with the product, I'm assigning the C times D to a variable and then printing out that variable. And then the C divided by D, instead of assigning it to a variable, I just directly print it out onto the screen. So I can do the same thing, where it's C divided by D and then print out division.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll do the same thing that yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So I think, yeah, we'll wrap it up a little for today. So for homework assignments, we won't really have a way of turning it into us directly. It'll mainly just be like an honor code, like you can just do it on your own. And more of this material is not for us to like be grading you like school and everything. It's just for you guys to be able to learn and be able to understand and be able to just learn coding in general, just these basic concepts. That's why I'm going slow. There might be some people who know more about Java, but I'm just trying to make sure that everyone is understanding and getting through and understanding these concepts.
I also have another question.
Yeah.
So when I first like signed in and registered, I had the Zoom link, but now when I deleted the tab, I can't access it anymore.
So are you still getting the emails and everything?
Yeah. Will they send the Zoom link in those emails?
Yeah, they will.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so the homework, I'm not going to paste it in the chat or anything right now. It'll be kind of messy. It'll just be sent out in the email or anything. So feel free to leave whenever you guys want. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
will this same Zoom link be used for all the meetings?
Yeah. We'll also, anyways, we'll send out the information. We'll send out information about all this, but yeah, the same Zoom link should happen.
Okay, thank you.
A question for me as well.
I have a good question.
Yeah.
Do you know when you're remember you said that you're gonna post a tutorial of how to download Java or something? Do you know when you would?
So I think in order to get all of you guys, it should be, I don't know the exact day yet, but I'm assuming between Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, around that time.
Wait, what's the homework? Are they just gonna post it?
Yeah, we'll send out the homework with everything else.
And also,
excuse me, I also
everything else, meaning the setup and like what you need to download and Slack information, all that for your questions.
but like also I downloaded it already, and I keep on trying to do like the system.out.println type of thing, but for some reason it keeps like it doesn't show up when I run the command.
Okay, so this happened to me too, and I resolved it quickly. The issue is that someone text, you have to literally go into it and say file and then save, not just do Command S, because it on the free version, which everybody has unless you actually purchased the complex version, you have to go into file on the top bar and then click save, not just do Command S.
Oh. Okay.
How do you / multiple lines of code at once?
You just command or control / or command / if you're on Mac. Yeah, all of you guys are free to leave whenever. I'm just staying back in case there are any questions.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Bye.
Yeah. Oh, so like for the double C, are you gonna use that most of the time for like learning other stuff for Java?
So yeah, double C, int A, all of those things that we went over today, those are just the basics that you'll need basically to code anything in Java, to create variables and all that.
Okay. So like throughout like the session of like the 8 weeks on like, is there any way I can contact you or someone that's like that, if while I'm doing the homework and I don't understand, we're not doing the Zoom lesson, like the online session right now, like is there a way I can contact you, like email or like?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we'll have like a Slack channel where you guys can ask questions about the homework or just concepts in general. So that'll be sent out along with like the tutorials and stuff this week.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you very much. So there's another lesson tomorrow, right? Monday, Thursday?
So we do Java just once a week on Monday. So tomorrow will be Python if you're interested in learning
Python?
that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So some of the code is gray because that's just what I commented out. So I can just uncomment to that. So commenting it out means it won't get it won't get compiled while you're running the actual file. So it'll just basically Java will just ignore anything that has 2 slashes in front of it. No, it's not necessary to come for the Python class if you just want to learn about Java. Yeah, I can just show you the output right now. So if I were to run the entire, yeah, this will be recorded and will be shared with all of you. So to download Sublime, the link is there. I'll send out a tutorial on everything on how to get everything set up depending on which options you want to use. So it's more in depth and you're able to use it. The homework will be sent out. Yeah, email. Any other last questions? Yeah, homework is emailed. Yeah, we'll learn inheritance later and classes. So the plus sign in the print statement, basically what that is doing is having I have this string here. Here is a string meaning words that I want to just print out. And what that does is add this a variable that I defined here to the end of that string. So I'm able to print out the output of that a, if that makes sense. Cool. So there's no place to turn in the homework, as I was saying earlier. Just make sure that it's basically up to you whether you want to do the homework or not. It's just for the learning experience. You'll be able to get the most out of this course if you actually do the homework, but it's essentially optional. It's up to you. Cool. Thank you guys for coming today. Looking forward to talking to you guys next week too.